Davis, your witness.
Thank you, Mayor.
Your Honor, may I?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
Yes, you may.
Good morning, Mr. Cunningham.
Good morning.
We haven't met, but my name's Lane Davis, and I represent Mr. Preston in this case. Let me first start by returning to a little bit of your background, just briefly. You had a BA from Clemson, is that right?
That's correct.
And you had an MBA from University of South Carolina and Clemson?
MPA.
MPA. And just for the purposes of the record, can you say what an MPA is?
Sure, it's a master's in public administration.
After that, you went to Greenville for a short stint,
Yes, sir.
and then you went to Anderson County and started off as an intern,
That's correct.
and you progressively worked yourself all the way up the ladder to deputy administrator.
That's correct.
How long were you with Anderson County?
From January of 1998 up until March the 1st, 2009.
And during that time, there was about a 6-year period that you worked with Mr. Preston.
Actually, I worked with him the entire time I was with the county.
So the entire. And during that period of time, it's true, is it not, that you never saw Mr. Preston do anything illegal. Is that right?
That's correct.
And during that time, you never saw Mr. Preston do anything unethical, right?
That's correct.
You were asked some questions on direct examination about meetings that occurred in Greenwood. Do you remember that?
Yes, sir.
Or it was a meeting in Greenwood, right?
2 meetings.
2 meetings. And at that point in time, is it your understanding that an employment dispute had arisen between the county and Mr. Preston?
Yes, sir.
And that during that period of time, is it also your understanding that Mr. Greer, for example, on a personnel committee, was trying to evaluate potential alternatives for succession after Mr. Preston's potential leaving the county?
Yes, sir.
And in fact, you were the person that they wanted to be the successor.
Yes, sir.
Now, having been in county government for all these years, can we agree that it makes sense that if there's a potential for the administrator to leave employment, that the county council would evaluate who would come in behind him?
Yes, sir.
You would want there to be some sort of vacuum or gap in the administrator position when the administrator left, right?
Ideally.
In your experience with the county, it's true, is it not, that personnel matters are treated with confidentiality.
That is correct.
And your meetings in Greenwood were in Greenwood in part because you were discussing personnel matters.
That's correct.
And on direct, you referenced the contentious political climate that had arisen during this time frame. You remember that?
Yes.
And it's true, is it not, that having the meeting outside of actual immediate area of Anderson was probably the only way that the confidentiality could be maintained?
I would agree with that, yes.
On direct examination, you were asked a question about a proposed draft of a master employment agreement that you sent to Mr. Preston. Do you remember that?
Yes, sir.
And it's true at the time that you sent that draft that Mr. Preston responded to you, right?
That's correct.
And one of the things that Mr. Preston said to you at that time was, hey, Michael, just to let you know, my employment situation remains unresolved.
Yes.
If you look at Plaintiff's Exhibit 9 for me, it's the exhibit that's behind the paragraph symbol in the 9 that's in your binder. It should be the first half. Plaintiff's Exhibit 9 is the master employment contract that you executed with the county, is it not?
Yes.
And you mirrored that master employment contract upon the existing administrator's contract, right?
To a degree, yes.
And it would make sense to mirror your contract on what the contract of the prior administrator actually was, right?
It would.
There's no point in reinventing the wheel.
None that I saw. Again, to a degree, there were things that I felt I would like to do differently.
Will you look at Defense Exhibit 108 for me, which should be the very next exhibit behind the following tab? Mr. Cunningham, page 1 is an email from Michael Thompson to you dated December 4th, 2008. Is it not?
It is.
And attached to that email is Michael Thompson's resume, right?
It is.
And on Michael Thompson's resume, on page 1, it reflects that Michael Thompson had an MBA. Did he not?
It does.
And he had, as it says in the very top, he was a business professional who had experience managing a $55 million account for an international automotive company. You understood that too, right?
Yes.
And beyond that, Mr. Thompson had significant experience in real estate matters. Did you know that?
I did.
And he had 9 years in purchasing experience. Did he not?
He did.
And but for the fact that Mr. Thompson had been the county council chairman, and but for the fact that the political climate in Anderson County at that point in time had become contentious, can we agree that Mr. Thompson would have been a great candidate to work for the county?
I could agree with yes.
And beyond that, his experience as a county council member put him in a unique position with respect to knowing about how the county worked, right?
I would agree.
Mr. Cunningham, in your experience, it's true, is it not, that Mr. Thompson was a good man?
Yes.
He was a fair man?
Yes.
And he was an honest man, wasn't he?
Yes.
Objection, Your Honor. I don't believe reputation of Mr. Thompson was an issue in the case.
Your Honor, his plea has an allegation that Mr. Thompson is some sort of liar. His complaint.
Overruled.
Each time I pause, Mr. Cunningham, I'm skipping, so that's a good thing.
No complaint.
I want to turn your attention to the early 2008 time frame. You remember an instance where certain council members came to the administrator's office to copy credit card receipts?
I do.
And those council members were Cindy Wilson
That's correct.
and was Bob Allred there too?
Yes, sir.
And did they bring a wide variety of people with them?
They do.
And the purpose of them coming to the administrator's office was because they requested to see county credit card receipts, right?
That's correct.
And the response from the administrator's office was, yeah, sure, no problem. We'll let you look at those receipts, right?
That was the response.
And all those receipts were up in the administrator's library waiting, or the administrator's conference room, waiting for them to look at them.
That's correct.
But when they arrived with an entourage.
That's correct.
And part of that entourage included people from radio stations, news stations, paper, media, all sorts of people, right?
There was a large group of people.
And beyond that, they brought with them to look at those documents that they requested in their capacity as county council members. They brought with them a mass of people from the general public at large, too, right?
Again, there was a large group. Some I was familiar with, most not.
I'd like to turn your attention to the Palmetto Agricultural Consultants contract. And I call it a PAC, if you don't mind, because I don't think I could say that again. It's true that there was a first PAC contract, and then there was an amended PAC contract, correct?
I was not familiar with the first or the iterations of the contracts. Again, it was early 2009.
And you were asked on direct about a buyout clause in the amended contract. Do you remember that?
Yes.
It's true, however, that in that amended contract, there was no minimum hourly amount of time that Sean was required to work.
I don't recall that in the contract, no.
And there was nothing that required the county to hire Sean for any minimum amount of time. Isn't that right?
No, I don't recall that in the contract.
But the earlier contract actually had a requirement in it with respect to time commitments. Do you remember that?
Again, I don't recall the first contract. The one that is most significant to me is the one that's brought to my attention from Mr. Daniel.
I understand. Do you ever recall a point in time when a personnel issue with respect to Bob Daniel arose?
I'm sorry, a personnel issue as it relates to Bob Daniel?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
What was that?
The actual hiring of Mr. Daniel and how that would be, I guess, facilitated by the county.
Do you recall any other personnel issues related to Mr. Daniel?
Objection, Your Honor. Relevant.
This is their financial guru. The whole underpinnings of their case arose out of an investigation commencing in January of 2009 and then going all the way through to the fall of 2009. Then you see in November of 2009 that they filed a complaint against Mr. Preston. And the person who was going through all of these financial documents, going through going through in Greene County, every single thing. And presumably the person who they actually asked about on direct with respect to the Sean contract, and he was the guy, at least as to the financial components, who was conducting the investigation. And so I'm just asking Mr. Cunningham if he knows something about any personnel matters that may have arisen about this person who was in a dead sentence. Do you recall any other personnel issues?
Yes, as it relates to accusations about county employees. Also, as it relates to just the flow of information to Mr. Daniel from county employees. There was a question of there's a huge volume of information being requested. How do we facilitate that? And again, there was, I assume that Mr. Daniel was chasing down any number of rumors as related to county employees.
What were the accusations against Mr. Daniel?
Hearsay, relevant.
Actually, lay a foundation to his knowledge of having come about any information he's going to testify about.
Mr. Cunningham, it's true, is it not, that during this time frame, you were actually acting county administrator?
Yes,
And when personnel issues came up involving people who were working in the county, they would flow back to you, would they not?
they would.
You'd be aware of a personnel issue that arose with respect to a person like Bob Daniel, right?
I would, although he was not my employee.
Fair enough. And in fact, you do know about those issues, don't you?
I'm aware of some.
And what were those accusations?
One that sticks out was the accusation that there was a relationship between a consultant with the county and a county employee.
The consultant with the county was Mr. Daniel.
No, I'm sorry. It was Representative John Scott.
Let me ask you this. During this time frame, we're looking at, you took over on December 1st of 2008, correct? During that time frame, it was your understanding that Mr. Preston was supposed to stick around until the beginning of the year, right?
That he would be there to the end of the year to clean out his office and to be around to assist should I need it. Yes.
And what was Mr. Preston supposed to be doing during this time period to your understanding?
To my understanding, providing support should I need it as it related to the transition between me being the county administrator and his ultimate departure.
Mr. Preston was supposed to stick around for a month to help you with the transition, right?
Should there be an assistance needed, yes.
And Mr. Preston was supposed to stick around for a month to help you clean up whatever loose ends were straggling from his administration to help usher your administration in.
He was there to be a resource.
Mr. Cunningham, will you turn to Defense Exhibit 66? Was this a memorandum that you authored to Tommy Dunn, who was the representative from District 5, Cunningham County?
Yes.
And this memorandum specifically relates to Heather Jones' vehicle, does it not?
It does.
And at this point in time, that is in February of 2009, there were allegations swirling about her vehicle, was there not?
There was.
And even more specifically, those allegations were that Homeland Security funds were used to buy that vehicle.
That is correct.
Do you remember where those allegations came from?
I really do not. There, if you're familiar at all with Anderson County politics, that there are lots of allegations that float daily.
There's a lot of unsubstantiated allegations, aren't there?
There are lots of allegations of all sorts. It's a colorful place to be.
And after these allegations cropped up, there was an investigation into whether Homeland Security funds were used to buy Heather Jones' vehicle, right?
Absolutely.
And during that investigation, if you'll turn 3 pages, it's true, is it not, that it was discovered that Miss Jones' vehicle was purchased all the way back in December 13th of 2006, right? If you turn the page, you should see what looks like
a copy of a check.
Check register, yes.
Right, okay, yes, I see that, dated December of 2006.
And the date of that check is December 13th, 2006, because Heather Jones commenced working with the county in October of 2006. Did she not?
Yes, that, as I recall, that was roughly the time frame she started working with the county.
And all those questions that were asked to you about backdating documents, they were asked to you about backdating memorandum that related to the October 2006 time frame when Heather Jones first started to work. Isn't that true?
Yes.
As the economic development director, it's true, is it not, that during the entirety of your time in Anderson County, Heather Jones had a vehicle.
Yes,
The economic development director needs a vehicle, right?
that is correct, yes.
If people from major corporations are interested in investing in Anderson County and they're flying in, the economic development director needs something to pick them up in the airport, right?
That is correct.
In the December of 2008 timeframe, do you remember any issues that arose with respect to the Broadway Lake project?
I do.
And just by way of background, what exactly was the Broadway Lake project?
Objections. Relevant.
Your Honor, it's relevant because what we're going to see, and this is actually fairly short, and the very next one's a very short line of questions. But it's relevant because of this. In December of 2008, I believe the witness is going to testify about a communication that he had with an incoming county council member, and that incoming council member gave him a certain instruction with respect to this project, and that he's going to probably testify about what his response to that instruction was. And he's also going to testify most likely about what another council member may have, the actual city council member may have told him about this project. And that later, after that person